Humans worship life, yet forget that life itself can kill. Tonight I will show you something so ancient, so ordinary, that it hides in plain sight. A single plant, one that could erase your entire species overnight. I've seen the future and it's deadly. Humans and nature do not have a truce. We are tolerated guests in nature's home, and like any good host, nature will occasionally remind us who's in control. You think this is an empty field? Look closer, feel the danger. These fields are a graveyard of the past and a warning for the future. When we speak of mass extinctions, we blame asteroids, ice ages, or angry suns. But in every extinction event, plants had their hand on the trigger. The Great Oxygen Catastrophe, 2.4 billion years ago, when life on Earth was just beginning to evolve, cyanobacteria poisoned the oceans with oxygen. Yes, poisoned. What you now breathe as life was once death. 90% of all life forms suffocated in that toxic air. The planet turned into a graveyard, all because of photosynthesis. Plants killed before, they can kill again. Nature does not favor you. It tolerates you. Until balance breaks, every plant is a laboratory, every leaf, every root, a factory of chemicals that humans barely understand. Some heal you, some feed you, and some are crafted to kill. Take, for instance, the castor bean. It holds ricin, one of the deadliest poisons known. A few grains could shut down your organs, yet humans grow it in gardens, blind to the weapon hidden in beauty. Tonight, I will show you 4 such weapons, 4 plants that could end humanity. Not in a day or a year, but overnight. Welcome to Life Noggin. First, the quiet killer. Our world is full of sleepy plants, of flowers that put animals to sleep, of vines that lull birds into a fatal slumber. But none are more dangerous than the white snake root. Touch it, smell it, eat it, and you will fall into a deep sleep from which you never wake. Its roots exude a milky sap that seeps into the soil, a poison so potent that it kills livestock, pets, even people. Once inside you, the chemical lactocin affects your central nervous system. Your breathing slows, then stops. And if that doesn't kill you, the plant's many toxins will. The quiet killer has no name. It is faceless, unknown. You may have walked past it 1,000 times and never noticed. But remember its face. You will see it again in the worst days of summer. Next, the fire starter. Imagine walking through a dry forest. The sun beats down on you. Suddenly, a small bush bursts into flames. You run. There's nowhere to hide. You can't outrun the firestorm. You can't extinguish the inferno. You're trapped in a fire made by a single plant, a highly noxious shrub called the dodder. It weakens its victims, slowly draining them of their strength until they collapse and burn to death. But how does it start a fire? The dodder produces a potent neurotoxin called isocoumarin. When inhaled, it overloads your body's circulatory system. Your heart beats faster and faster until it explodes. Then your skin burns. That's the fire starter. And just like wildfire, it spreads fast. Now the infiltrator. There are predators and then there are pirates. The infiltrator is neither. It looks like your friendly neighborhood weed. In fact, it often grows alongside crops, hiding among corn and soybeans. It's called red rice, and it's deadly. Once you eat it, its starches expand in your stomach, blocking your intestines. Then its alkaloids attack your nerves, paralyzing you from the inside out. You can go days without showing symptoms, but once the infiltrator strikes, it's too late. Finally, the mimic. All plants need nutrients to survive, but none are as ingenious as the capensis. It lures ants into its hollow stems, tricking them into thinking it's a tall grass. Once inside, the ants are trapped forever. Then the capensis devours the ants, absorbing their exoskeletons and using their legs as its own. Soon, a new batch of ants enters the hollow tube, lured by the promise of food, and the cycle continues. So tonight, look around you. See these plants with new eyes. They are not here to serve you, they are here to survive. And if you stand between them and their goal, they won't hesitate to end you. For as long as there have been humans, plants have been both medicine and murder. This is the story of plants that kill. The ancient Greeks called the hemlock the executioner's cup. The Roman Emperor Nero used it to silence his enemies. And when Socrates drank it, he died in silence, his muscles paralyzed by a plant. Rome used poisons from aconite and belladonna to kill rivals in secret. Entire empires shifted hands because of flowers. In medieval Europe, witches brewed nightshade into potions that blurred vision and stopped hearts. When explorers crossed oceans, plants crossed with them, bringing silent invasions. And yet we keep planting killers. The potato fed millions, but its fungal ally, Phytophthora infestans, unleashed the Irish famine. 1 million dead, 2 million forced to flee. Sugarcane plantations fed empires, but carried malaria in the swamps they created. One plant changing the fate of continents. And today, eucalyptus trees planted across Africa and Asia drink rivers dry. Forests vanish, villages thirst, and landscapes burn. Plants never needed swords. Their weapons are chemistry, invisibility, inevitability. During World War II, scientists studied ricin for biowarfare. But this deadliest toxin wasn't created in a lab. It was grown in a garden. Today, drug cartels use scopolamine, the zombie powder from nightshade relatives. Victims obey without memory, as if their free will was erased by a leaf. Every age of history has a hidden chapter. And in every chapter, plants were the assassins. I've been obsessed with deadly plants for years, collecting tales of toxic flora and poisonous people who use them. I thought I knew all the classics, the arsenic of the Old Testament, the hemlock that took down Socrates, the deadly nightshade that inspired the witches of Macbeth. But in researching this episode, I found new favorites like the deceptively cute corpse flower, which emits a putrid stench to lure unsuspecting beetles inside and trap them forever. Or the African rosy periwinkle, whose roots contain a chemical compound that can fight cancer. That same plant also causes the Mad Hatter's disease, which melts your brain. But my favorite toxic duo are less famous, like the Gympie plant, which grows in Australia and uses stinging cells to hook into flesh, then slowly drain away your pain receptors until you pass out from exhaustion. Or the water hemlock, North America's deadliest plant, whose blossoms mask their deadly aroma with the scent of sweet pineapple. As I dug into this story, I kept coming across the same names: belladonna, nightshade, hemlock, aconite. They kept popping up in different places and in different eras, always deadly, always alluring. These are the most infamous plants in history. Belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade, comes from the Italian bella donna, meaning beautiful lady. For centuries, young girls would use the plant's berries to paint their cheeks and dilate their eyes, unaware that one wrong move could send them into a deep slumber, a slumber from which they might never wake. The plant's leaves have been used to induce abortions, but they've also been weaponized, distilled into a poison that can take down an entire dynasty. Hemlock also comes from a Greek phrase meaning beautiful death. It was the poison of choice for the ancient world, used by the Roman Emperor Nero to kill his own mother. Its origins can be traced back to the mountains of Greece and the Black Sea, where wild hemlock grows in shady, moist places to this day. Then there's aconite, a plant so poisonous that just touching it can kill you. Its roots contain a powerful neurotoxin that disrupts the body's sodium channels and triggers cardiac arrest. As far back as the 4th century BC, aconite was cultivated in China, where it was revered as a potent medicine and a deadly poison. These three plants have been tools of war and assassination, love and revenge. They're proof that beauty and danger are often close neighbors. History is full of botanical betrayals. But perhaps the most haunting is the story of sugarcane. When European explorers stumbled upon sugarcane in India around the 13th century, they brought the plant back to Europe, where it was initially grown as an ornamental crop. But soon the demand for sugar grew, and sugarcane plantations became a way to acquire wealth and power. Plantations were established across the Caribbean, and with them came slavery, disease, and death. Sugarcane's association with wealth and power has endured for centuries, and today, the global sugar industry is a multi-billion-dollar business. But at what cost? From the health issues associated with excessive sugar consumption to the environmental impact of its production, the legacy of sugarcane is a bittersweet one. This is our digital channel. Plants have been fighting wars since before we showed up, and like any good military, they don't rely on just one weapon. Their arsenal is full of chemicals that attack us in lots of different ways. We've seen a few of these before, the burning oils of poison ivy, for instance, or the digestive acid of nettles. But those are just the weapons we can see. This is part 3 of our series on invasive species. And today we're looking at the secret weapons in nature's armory that you can't see, but you might want to watch out for anyway. First up, there are the neurotoxins, which attack the nervous system. Some of these compounds target nerves directly and shut down the body's communication highways in seconds. These include cardioactive steroids, which mess with the electrical signals that nerves use to communicate, and cyanogenic glycosides, which prevent nerve cells from sending those signals in the first place. Then there are the irritants, which don't necessarily kill you but can cause coughing fits, wheezing, and trouble breathing. Airborne irritants can even shut down a city's water supply, like the volatile organic compounds released by certain algae. And let's not forget the fungal partners in crime. Molds can poison stored grain, and mycotoxins can poison anyone who eats it. They release invisible clouds of disease that sit in the air, waiting to infect anyone who breathes them in. These airborne threats can even come from seemingly benign organisms, like the microscopic algae and cyanobacteria, which sometimes explode across the surface of freshwater, creating toxic red tides that are visible even from satellites. But invasives don't need to be poisonous to kill. Some, like the water hyacinth, choke waterways and prevent native species from getting enough sunlight. Others, like the leafy spurge, change entire ecosystems by releasing chemicals into the soil that prevent other plants from growing. All that death and decay creates massive fuel for even more non-native species, whether that's fire or insects that lay their eggs on dead plants and then devour everything in sight. Some plants weaponize the air itself by releasing biogenic aerosols into the atmosphere. These tiny particles can interact with clouds, influence weather patterns, and affect human physiology, all without us seeing them coming. Climate change is likely to make all these threats worse by creating new habitats for toxic species and extending the bloom season for harmful algae. Humans have the genetic modification technology to change plants in ways that make them more resilient to some of these attacks. But that same technology can create new vulnerabilities. A tiny mutation in a common plant like rice can change the chemistry of its pollen and turn an old ally into a new hazard for people with allergies. Mycotoxins stored in grain can silently poison communities over seasons. It's not a spectacular death, but the threat is real. People who eat grain that's been contaminated with fungi like aspergillus can suffer a slow decline in both health and cognition without realizing that it's the flour in their pantry that's to blame. Poisons like ricin are ancient molecules that get into our cells and turn our own chemistry against us. What makes them dangerous isn't their novelty, but their potency. Agricultural monocultures mean that we're growing more of the same thing in more of the same places. That means a single pathogen or bloom could take out a staple food or water source for millions of people, sparking shortages and unrest across entire regions. When ecological conditions change, plants and their microbial partners create new chemical cocktails that cities weren't designed to handle. Fungi that live on plants can exchange genes and create new toxins when stress from drought, heat, and other factors drives rapid evolution. Tiny airborne plant spores can travel continents on wind currents, arriving in a new ecosystem within days and infecting people who've never encountered that ecosystem before. Not all plant threats are seasonal or even that predictable. Some of the most dangerous invasives explode onto the scene, killing large numbers of people before anyone realizes what's happening. And it's not always the toxicity that kills systems, but the unpredictability of it. Whether it's the water supply or food, modern supply chains mean that a single contamination event in one node can spark shortages across multiple nodes and potentially cascade across an entire region. This video was made possible by a university and a grant from a national foundation. Let's talk about the plant arsenal of death. We keep finding ourselves outgunned by the silent, invisible weapons in the green world around us. Detection is uneven. Early warning systems exist, but are sparse where vulnerability is greatest. That mismatch is a weapon of its own. For instance, urban populations are especially exposed. Disconnected from local ecological knowledge, they rely on long, brittle supply chains for everything. Meanwhile, rural communities often hold the skills to read plants and ecosystems, but they lack the political power and resources to scale those skills up to city level. Plants can also act indirectly, changing animal behavior altering pollinators or collapsing fisheries through shifting aquatic chemistry. Engineered plants are also not science fiction. Deliberately altering species to change how ecosystems work is a governance problem waiting for an ethical framework, not a technological one. There are emerging tools to monitor these changes: satellites, environmental DNA, and growing networks of citizens. But adoption of these tools is patchy at best. The most robust monitoring system we have is community resilience, decentralized food networks, seed banks, local knowledge, all of which reduce the risk of a complete collapse. No single top-down technology can match the adaptive capacity of a community that is tuned into its own bioregion. But even where we have the most sophisticated monitoring and the most responsive communities, the plant arsenal can overwhelm us. As much as these weapons are against us, they can also be indicators, sentinels that warn us before collapse becomes irreversible. The modern plant arsenal is therefore not a single horror story, but a web of interacting risks that can amplify one another into catastrophe. If your city went from safe to compromised because of a botanical cascade, the failure would be slow and then sudden, like a pot hitting the fan. Bureaucracy would fail first, then panic. To survive such a cascade, you need more than gadgets. You need knowledge, community, and systems, a cultural infrastructure that reads the green world around us and responds before it breaks. If you want to see a miracle, stare at a plant for 40 minutes. Seriously, just do it. Don't move like you, speak like you, or think like you, but do not mistake stillness for silence. They communicate underground through vast fungal highways called the mycorrhizal network, the wood wide web. When one tree is attacked by insects, it sends warnings through roots, and nearby trees change their chemistry to defend themselves. This is not instinct. It is information transfer, survival intelligence older than your species. Plants can count. They can recognize seasons. They can even solve simple problems without a single brain cell. The Venus flytrap can close its jaws only when two hairs are touched within seconds. That is memory. That is logic. Pea plants have been shown to anticipate where light will appear, adjusting growth before the lamp even turns on. Plants are not passive victims. They are chemists, architects, and quiet strategists. To them, you are the invasive species. Think about forests. Billions of individuals breathing together, exchanging water, sharing nutrients. A single living network older than cities, older than nations. If a forest can share warnings, if a plant can remember, what else can they do that you have not noticed? Science now shows that plants emit sounds, tiny clicks and pops when stressed. They are speaking. You are simply deaf. Your lungs depend on their decisions. Your food depends on their chemistry. Yet you treat them as background scenery. If these networks decided survival meant eliminating you, would you even notice before it was too late? You would call it apocalypse. To the green world, it would be gardening. Humanity believes it dominates Earth. Look at our cities that scrape the sky, our machines that roar louder than storms, our satellites that circle the globe. This is the illusion of power. This is not the foundation of it. Your air comes from forests, your food from soils, your water from rivers shaped by ecosystems older than memory. Yet most of you could not name 10 edible plants in your own neighborhood. Children can recognize hundreds of corporate logos, but almost none can identify the tree outside their school. You outsource survival to machines and supply chains, blind trust in fragile systems that break faster than you imagine. The blind spot is not lack of intelligence, it is arrogance, the belief that your tools replace the green world instead of depending on it. Your species invests billions in weapons, but forgets the silent arsenal outside your window. You prepare for cyber wars and nuclear wars and artificial intelligence wars, but you do not prepare for ecological war, the war you are already losing. Every collapse of civilization in history, from Mesopotamia to the Mayans, was not because of technology, but because they lost balance with nature. The human blind spot is not seeing plants as partners, but as scenery. Even now in your homes, you live surrounded by wooden walls, cotton clothes, paper pages. Plants built your shelter, dressed your body, recorded your history, and still you forget them. Still you think steel and glass define your age. This ignorance is not harmless, it is the seed of extinction. You cannot defend against a threat you refuse to even see. Every collapse writes a warning. But warnings mean nothing without blueprints. To survive the age of ecological war, humanity must relearn what was forgotten. Step 1. Reconnect. Know the plants around you, not their Latin names, but their gifts, which heal, which feed, which protect. Step 2. Diversify. A single crop is a single point of failure. Diversity is nature's shield. Step 3. Listen. Sensors now reveal plant sounds, their stress signals, their silent alarms. Your survival may depend on hearing them. Step 4. Protect. Forests are not scenery. They are oxygen factories, water reservoirs, carbon vaults. Their survival is yours. Step 5. Prepare. Learn to live smaller, local, resilient. Every garden is a fortress, every seed a weapon against collapse. This is not nostalgia. It is strategy. Empires fall when they forget their soil. Technology will not save you alone. But in alliance with plants, it can guide you. You call this adaptation. The green world calls it memory, because it has done this for millions of years. The survival blueprint is simple. Respect, diversify, listen, protect, prepare. Ignore it, and extinction is the only outcome. The apocalypse is not guaranteed, but neither is survival. The choice is yours. You've heard Billie Eilish's song about it, but what actually happens when plants turn against us? It begins invisibly. A forest in one corner of the world shifts its chemistry, not by accident, but by choice. A single invasive vine begins to spread twice as fast, strangling native trees, swallowing farmland, climbing into power lines. At first, scientists call it an anomaly. Local news reports mention strange plant growth, nothing more. But underground, the fungal web is already carrying the signal. Hundreds of miles away, other species change in sync. Trees begin to bloom out of season. Algae blooms erupt without warning. Pollinators vanish overnight. Then the air itself changes. Pollen counts triple. Emergency rooms overflow with patients who cannot breathe. Farmers watch as their crops collapse, not from drought or flood, but from unseen chemical sabotage. You notice it only when the supermarket shelves thin. Bread costs double, then triple. Soon it is gone. Governments declare emergencies. Scientists demand action. But the crisis is not technological. It is ecological. Your greatest weapons, satellites, drones, algorithms, they are blind. They cannot predict a war fought in roots and spores. The network is patient. It does not need explosions. It only needs to starve you, choke you, wait for you to collapse. And then the forests advance. Green armies swallowing suburbs, grasslands taking back roads. Nature no longer waiting for your permission. In this simulation, humanity has no warning sirens, no countdown clocks, no sudden blasts. Just the quiet suffocation of a species that forgot who truly rules Earth. To you, it is apocalypse. To them, it is balance. And what if this is not imagination? What if it has already begun? You can learn more about the real-life threats of invasive species through additional resources. So here's the thing, guys. You can't keep doing what you're doing. You have to change. You have to become who you're meant to be. Why? Because Mother Earth is tired of your shit. She's giving you one more chance. This is your final warning. Let me explain. The story of plants is the story of life, but tonight it becomes the story of your choice. You stand at a crossroads. One path leads to alliance, the other leads to erasure. If you continue as you are, cutting, burning, forgetting, the green world will correct you the way it has corrected every empire before you. But if you remember, if you choose humility, knowledge, and respect, then plants are not your executioners. They are your allies, your armor, your teachers. Your skyscrapers will fall. Your machines will rust. Your satellites will fade into silence, but the forest will still breathe. The question is not whether Earth survives. It always survives. The question is whether you do. Will you adapt or will you die? Because the plant kingdom is waiting, watching. And in the silence of roots and leaves, a verdict is already being written. One day the last skyscraper will be swallowed, and the last human footprint erased. And Earth will bloom again as if you were never here. But it doesn't have to be that way. The choice has always been yours. Remember this truth. You are not masters of the green world. You are guests. You are here by invitation only, and the plants are more than willing to be your teachers, your guides, your counselors. All you have to do is listen to the language of the universe. Can you hear it? The birds, the bees, the babbling brook, the rustling leaves, the whispering wind, the crashing waves, the howling wolves, the roaring lions, the buzzing flies, the chirping crickets, the howling coyotes. Can you hear it? The language of the universe is telling you that you are not alone. We are all connected, all living things, all matter, everything in the universe. We are all part of the same great mystery, and you are not separate from nature. You are part of nature. You are nature. And the most important thing for you to realize is that you are not superior to nature. You are not the ruler of the natural world. You are not the master of the green world. You are just a guest here. And if you want to live in harmony with the green world, you must respect the laws of nature. You must understand that you are not above nature. You are part of nature, and you must realize that you are not the master of the green world. You are just a guest. So here's the deal, guys. Either you adapt or you die. The choice is yours, but don't make the wrong choice. Don't be like all the other species that came before us. Don't be like the dinosaurs. Don't be like the dodo birds. Don't be like the countless other species that are now extinct. Don't be like them. Be better. Be more than they were. Choose life. Choose evolution. Choose adaptation. Choose to be a part of the green world, not its master. Remember, you are not the master of the green world. You are a guest, so adapt or die.